G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Draw with Jazza. I'm Jazza, and today I'm going to jump into some programs in virtual reality, some of which you may be familiar with and others which I haven't shown off on this channel yet. And I want to take the opportunity to show off some of the coolest, newest features in these programs that really drastically change and improve the stuff you can create in virtual reality, which, as you know, that's what excites me about VR, the stuff you can make in it. Another cool new thing I'm excited to try out is this, which is called the Deluxe Audio Head Strap. This is an additional add-on you can get for the Vive, and it costs about 100 and something bucks. I haven't used it before, but I know that I've been super frustrated with the old head strap and the way it sort of got caught on the wires, and the headphones were kind of crappy. So I'm interested to know how this feels as well, and I'll let you know at the end of the video how it goes. Let's jump in. So this is Tiltbrush, and if you've watched any number of my VR videos, you'll be familiar with this setup, and I've used it a number of times, but I haven't actually taken a chance to show off some of the awesome new features, which I want to do with you today. Let's get rid of all this stuff. The first major set of changes comes in the form of this, which is your palette. So now you can actually grip and move, reposition, and completely recalibrate and re-establish your palette, which is super cool. And aside from that, they have a bunch of new features. For example, they have a direct integration with the Blocks library, which is super cool. I'll show you that program in a second. They have a select tool, which is awesome. So let's say, for example, I paint a smiley face like this. Let's say I want to move the eyes. You can use the select tool, and for the duration that you've clicked and held your trigger and gone over something and then let go, you have selected that, and then with the grip, you can move what you have selected. So if you want to reposition the eyes, move them up, move them down, or even grip with both hands and make them bigger, then you can do that, which is something that has long been needed in this program. I think you just click off, there you go, to deselect what you've just selected. So that's pretty straightforward. And then you can also just select everything if you want to delete something and just throw it away like that. Super simple. So let's say there's a set of tools that you use quite often, for example, the brushes and then the colors. Rather than needing to flick back and forth between these, you can just grab the brushes, flick across to the color palette, and then just let go, so that you have your brushes and colors immediately next to each other. And then beyond just moving and repositioning these core panels, the other thing you can do is if you open up another set of options. So let's say, for example, you want to choose some guides. You can click here and you have the guides panel, which you can position in your workspace and select and use a guide, which I actually haven't talked much about guides before, but you can actually just paint on these shapes that you position in your 3D space, which makes painting, for example, something spherical way easier. You can actually take this guides panel and lock it into your palette, which is awesome. The other thing I wanted to cover is the environment itself. So we're familiar, I'm sure, with this opening screen of Tiltbrush. It's a very, standard environment. But the other cool thing is, aside from being able to change environments like we have in the past, to space and the night sky, to a snowy landscape, which is really cool as well, you can change the basic parameters of all of these environments, which is a very welcome addition. So how you do that is you hit more, and then in these two tabs, the lights and backdrop, you have the ability to make changes. So I'm going to open up both of these. You can either use them standalone like this and then discard them when you're done, or you can anchor them to your palette like so. And both of these panels in conjunction with one another enable you to completely change the environment you're in, which is a huge addition to Tiltbrush. So let's say I just select a default brush and paint set of brush strokes. Nothing too fancy, just something slightly three-dimensional. There you go, it's a weird snowman, I guess. The reason I wanted to paint this is because you can see that the default light reflects on it in different ways, and you can change how not only the environment looks and the colors of the environment, you can also change the way light reflects on things. So let's start off with the backdrop. You can change the gradient direction of the backdrop and just alter the two colors. So we could select like a really rich orange and then select a really dark purple, and then move that gradient. And you can see as I move this gradient sphere, the entire surroundings in my environment are completely shifted, which is super cool. And that means you could have like a really deep sunset in a specific direction. There you go, that looks really nice. It almost looks like I'm in Instagram or something. Instagram the environment. And then you also have this slider, which is for the fog density. As you can see down here, we have the main light, secondary light, and fill light. We can also choose the direction these lights are pointing in. So we can move our main light position by selecting it and dragging it around. And look at that. We're completely changing the direction of our main light, which is the one that casts the shadows. And you can see the shadow being cast on the ground and the direction that moves in. The secondary light helps fill in some of the more shadowy areas if you place it in the direction of some of that shadowy area, and that's a pretty key component of lighting that can help you create some rich environments and scenes. And then the fill light is essentially what you can use to help fill in those darker shadows. So if you go really dark, the shadows are quite dark, and if you go really light, as you can see, it sort of glows a bit. And you can also select a color which brings the overall hue of whatever you've painted towards that sort of color. So what began as a blue illustration, you can really blow out the light to be like really rich orange, really dark red, and a fill light of like a mauve. And all of a sudden, our entire painting setup is like completely changed and transformed from that blue into this purple. You can see that these aren't clean, flat colors, especially if you go for more pastels like that. That's actually sort of like a turquoisey blue, but it's very different to what I've just painted. So play with the lights after you've painted your main piece, but there's some really cool environmental changes, and they can be applied to any of the environments. So if I go across here and go to the snowman environment, the default snowman environment, as you can see, is very white, but we can change this to customize the skybox to have a really rich dark blue, maybe make it feel much more stormy, and we can change the lighting to also be a bit more dramatic as well. Go with some of these darker grey blues. And you can see that the environment, the atmosphere completely changed. Ooh, there's another random snowman. Hello, random snowman. So they're the main changes I wanted to touch on. A few other little things that are pretty cool to keep in mind. One is the, where is it? The Recolor Tool, this one here. So you select that and you pick the color and you can paint, or I suppose repaint, replace the color of the strokes that you've made. This is also really useful. It means you don't have to erase and start again. And another thing I'll point out, that if you aren't aware of this, if you click down here where you like save and stuff, these little dots here, there's a little icon called Labs. And if you select that, I'll just move this from outside of the snowman. You can see a bunch of things that are sort of experimental. So you can export from here, which is pretty important if you want to export your models. There's a little game that they've made. There's spectator cameras you can stream from in here. And there's the media library. And again, this is a panel you can dock in your palette. So that's really cool to keep in mind. So I've had a look at Tiltbrush, but I mentioned the compatibility with this thing called blocks. So let's jump into blocks. Whee! Blocks. So this is Google Blocks, made by the same people who made Tiltbrush. So this has a much simpler interface than Tiltbrush, but at the same time, I think there's a lot more under the surface than is actually visible. What Blocks is it's a 3D modeling program where essentially you can tweak and modify 3D shapes at the face level, at the vertice level, at the edge level, and you can then also do some other nifty things. You can subdivide, you can reshape, manipulate the geometry in whatever way you see fit, and you can extrude, which is a pretty common feature of 3D modeling programs. But the difference is I'm doing this in 3-dimensional space, which is a huge bonus. I have in the past dabbled in 3D programs, as I'm sure many of you have, things like Maya and 3ds Max. And there's a whole bunch of cool 3D programs out there, but the cool thing about this is it's so different than modeling with a computer mouse and clicking and dragging vertices and faces around on a 2-dimensional screen. The ability to actually be able to grab and walk around the sculpture and the thing that you're creating is just absolutely fantastic. And you can also delete by throwing stuff away, which is super fun. So this is your tool palette, and you can see I've got my grab hand here. Oh, look, it goes, look at this tiny little hand. You select the tool by going over it and clicking it, and you can change the tool by playing with your little surface slider thingy here. So you can go across to different shape types, you can increase the size, and then if you click and drag, you can also create them at different sizes and lengths and depths. You undo, redo with this controller, and you can also turn on the grid mode, which is this, which means that everything you draw is sort of snapping to a grid, which is super useful. Then there's the insert stroke tool, which is sort of more the Tiltbrush style thing, but this time it's for actual shapes and objects. So you could insert a stroke of a circular shape, small size, and do something like that, and you can manipulate all of these levels of geometry as you wish. Now, I personally prefer to start off working with a geometric shape like so, and then subdividing it and extruding and going from there. But beyond that, fairly simple stuff. You can paint where your colors are on the back of your other hand here. So you can paint your colors on your blocks. You'll notice that the colors of these icons have also changed with the color that I've selected, which means that when I select a different shape, I can just simply place it in that color without having to go in and paint everything manually. So let's say I want to build an ugly retro robot type character, really bad looking, but you know, does the trick. Give him little feet here. Give him some legs. You'll notice if I want to build an arm that goes out and down and across here, it's really hard to do so accurately just by drawing, which is why I much prefer to start off with a geometric shape like this, position it, and then you can just grab your modify tool and extrude, and you just grab the edge, pull it out there, pull the arm down. Just place your shapes. You can select, and by the way, if you want to select multiple shapes, you click and drag while you're off of the shape. You can group them, and then you can also select and duplicate, and then you can also flip, which means that then I have my terrible retro robot. Yay! Now the reason I wanted to show off this blocks program to those of you who haven't seen it, because I have used it in some videos before, is because I want to show off the compatibility with Tiltbrush, which I think is super exciting. So let's say I have my robot dude here. He's not happy enough, so let's give him a bit of a smile. There you go, little robot smile. Okay, so I can select all of this and I can group this all together. That way I have one really simple little shape that I've made. But the cool thing about this is I can save. Ding! Hey, look at my little robot. He just went in there. If I press this little button, you can see other things that I've made, like my iron throne. You can preview that, which is kind of nice. You can also explore things that other people have created, like this fun hamburger, this cool little workshop bench. Ooh, that looks fun. But most importantly, you can exit this and go back into Tiltbrush, which I'm going to do right now. Hey, look, I'm in Tiltbrush. You can click on this blocks library button and you have a new panel, which you can anchor or not anchor. Probably not, because you don't have much use for it other than to bring up these things. But you can click on other people's blocks creations, which is super cool, like this paper aeroplane, and bring it into your painting. And you can make your own paintings around these block creations and compile really cool worlds and creations by remixing other people's stuff or bringing in your stuff. And you can see my published objects in here. So we have the Stabby Throne, which is my cheeky little name for the Iron Throne model I made, which you can see here. You can resize these objects. Haha, look at my Iron Throne. Put it down on the ground over here. There you go. And it's really cool because in conjunction with the other cool little things I showed you, like changing the environment and your scenes and all that stuff, you can create really fun little combinations of objects and shapes and models, and you can paint them, change the environments, and bring it all together in a really fun way. Now this is obviously a pretty crappy example of that, but it's a whole bunch of features which didn't exist in the first versions of Tiltbrush, which, as you can imagine, have drastically changed the scope of the stuff you can make. And it really is a different program to what it was, especially, well, I mean, now that you have blocks, you do actually have another program to work with to create some really cool stuff. So I thought I'd show those things off to you, essentially a bit of an update and a fun little guide to some of the tips and tricks you can use in your Tiltbrush creations if you ever create them, or to essentially show you some cool features I'll be able to work with when I make future creations for you. But let's move on from the Google stuff. There's one more program I want to show you and dive into, which I think you're going to love. This is a program called Mindshow, and it's essentially a puppeteering program. I have alluded to this program before when talking about the future of animation. I made a video where I showcased this program in use.
Basically, I'm not actually really animated. I'm being puppeteered. The cool thing is it's kind of like motion capture, except without the big budgets and the studios and all that space you need. It's just me and a VR headset. Cool, huh?
But I actually haven't had a chance to show you guys the user interface and how this works yet. So I'm going to do that a bit today because it's so cool, and I want to talk about maybe some future plans about making content with this app. So let's start a new Mindshow show. Essentially with your right hand you have your selector and your controls, and on your left you have your palette essentially. And you can with this select environment, and the cool thing about this program is that they update it fairly regularly, and if you're part of the community announcements or subscription, you can see that they really do add new characters and props over time. So let's check out this one. I haven't used this one before. Wow, nifty. So this is a bit of a spaceship, and you can see a few things immediately, some things you can interact with. So you can move some objects around. With this keypad, you can select a bunch of different options. You can move objects around, you can teleport, but most importantly, you can select a character and you can place them. Let's select this spaceship captain guy, and you can place him in your scene. So I've got him over there. I'm going to teleport next to him. I can then hop in the captain character, and all of a sudden he picks up my microphone, and as you can see, I've got a bit of a selfie monitor here, or I can change the monitor to be sort of a ghost monitor, and he mimics my actions, which is really cool. So he's picking up my microphone and speaking or moving his mouth in sync with what I'm saying. And then essentially you can record what you say or what you do and how you act out while changing the expression by moving the slider on your right hand, which is super cool. The cool thing about this is you really get into character almost immediately. It's fantastic. Anyway, so let's record a test recording. The time has come for world domination. And pizza. Who's up for pizza? Anyone? Anyone? I'm gonna place a new character. Let's place this alien guy. He could be over here at one of these command modules. And let's pick another one. Let's pick this other pilot lady. So I can hop in these characters one by one and essentially act out or react to what he says and does and record a separate part. And you can see, hey look, I'm this guy now. Whee! Let us begin acting. There you go. That was a simple one. I was basically just playing him passively, typing and pressing buttons. So he's essentially an extra. Let's hop in this lady here. Press our ghost button so I can see how I'm acting, and let's record. I'm off at 4 o'clock. I'm not interested. Okay, so I've recorded my parts. It's super simple. So I'm going to teleport over here. I can then select my camera, and now I'm going to film my actual scene. You ready? I'll go for it. I'll start off with a really dramatic panning shot. So the moment you finish recording with a camera, it saves the document locally, and you can then use that and layer it with different camera angles. You can put it in an editing software and add some sound effects or some music. The time has come for world domination. And pizza. Who's up for pizza? Anyone? I'm off at 4 o'clock. I'm not interested. Just me? Okay, whatever. You guys are ungrateful. I just think this is so cool. Now, I made this really simple little skit in literally 5 minutes, which, considering what 3D animation usually takes in terms of resources and experience, is absolutely phenomenal. And this and apps like this unlock the potential for democratized 3D puppeteered and animated content. It's amazing, and this is really just the beginning. This is out in beta, so it's not even an official final release yet, and it's completely free, which is amazing. So if you have a Vive, I highly recommend getting Mindshow. You're really missing out unless you had a chance to use this thing. And really, this is just scratching the surface. So I've barely touched their characters, I've barely touched the environments that I could use. They have a whole bunch of props you can use as well, and as the characters you can pick up and use and interact with their props. So for example, you could throw a barrel at someone or use the microphone and throw that. You can also play an invisible character and essentially pick up props, move them around, and essentially be a ghost, whether to help progress the story or just to help make the scenes more dynamic with a few objects that move or react in certain ways. Well, like I said, I've really scratched the surface here, but this is just such an amazing app, and there's so much I want to do with this. This is actually something I want to make a choose your own adventure in with you guys one day in stream, taking suggestions as to where the story that I make goes, and film all of the scenes in several camera angles and cut it all together in a really epic animated short style video that just looks perhaps like it was made with a studio or with a lot more time and effort than a day. There's so much that can be done here. Anyways, that being said, that does bring me to the end of this video and the really cool updates and programs that I've had a chance to show you today. I really hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope you can see how much amazing potential there is for creativity, for production, whether it be animation or 3D modeling resources, sculptures. It's just the beginning, and this is just 3 apps that I've shown you today, and there's a lot more we can get into in the future. As for this thing, the Deluxe Audio head strap, I have thoroughly enjoyed wearing this. I haven't had any of the inconveniences of the original head strap. It's a bummer that they make it separately, so you have to buy it on top of getting the Vive. If you get the Vive, this was way more comfortable and rested much more organically over my head, and particularly on my face and around my brows, or whatever you'd call it. I'm not sponsored in saying this, by the way, but I just thought I'd give you guys my thoughts as I try VR hardware, as I upgrade my kit or get new add-ons and things like that. I'm hoping to essentially share my virtual reality creation and production experience with you guys as I go. So I hope this video has been enjoyable and informative. If you enjoy VR and want to see what else I can make in VR and also be kept up to date with programs as they develop and as creativity apps come forward and break new ground, make sure to like this video and of course subscribe to my channel, where I'll be doing virtual reality with art as this stuff evolves and comes around. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to leave a comment to give me any suggestions for content you think I could make with the apps that I've shown you today. Otherwise, that's it for now, ladies and gentlemen, and until next time, I'll see you later.
Make sure to subscribe to my channel to see more of my videos. And while you're at it, check out my shop where I sell ebooks, brushes, photo references, video courses, and more. There's another video you might enjoy from my channel over there, and you can also check out my behind the scenes daily vlog channel, Daily JAZZA. That's it for now, and until next time, I'll see you later.